Welcome, everyone. I'm Wake, your host for Shaman to Shaman. You've joined a series of heartfelt conversations where we connect shaman to shaman, healer to healer, teacher to teacher, with earth-based and lineage-rooted practitioners from around the world. Today, I'm honored to welcome a truly radiant presence in the shamanic world, Leontine Hartzell, joining us from just outside Boston. She'll be sharing stories from her powerful journey about her life, her healing work, and the unique ways she brings her gifts to the world. Leontine is a renowned shamanic visionary, healer, and teacher with over 30 years of experience in the shamanic arts. She was born with psychic abilities, is broadly trained, and is a highly sensitive empath. Currently, she offers two main teaching programs, in addition to leading spiritual pilgrimages to sacred sites. Hello, Leontine. Welcome to Shaman to Shaman.
Hi, Wake. It's really lovely to be here.
Is there anything else you'd like to say before I share a little bit more about your background?
No, go right ahead. I think you've covered the basics.
Okay. Thank you so much for being here. It's really a pleasure. It's nice getting to know you, and you're a solid contributor to Shamans Directory. So I really appreciate that and want to thank you.
Well, thank you. It's wonderful to have this opportunity to talk about the shamanic work that I do and all the wonderful ways that the helping spirits have guided me and bringing forth beautiful teachings and healings for people.
You'll find Leontine's full biography on her profile in Shamans Directory, but here are some highlights. Leontine graduated from Vassar College, studying comparative religions. She earned a degree from the Graduate Theological Union in Berkeley. She studied with the Foundation for Shamanic Studies and with Sandra Ingerman. Her mission: to awaken the divine light within each person so they can live with joy and compassion. Leontine trains healers and teachers to align with divine light and wisdom, working in partnership with compassionate, helping spirits, bringing healing, teaching, and ceremony to their communities. Here are some of her core programs, and we can talk more specifically about them in a few moments. First is the Shamanic Light Healer Apprenticeship, which she renews with help from her spirit guides. The Ocean of Light Healing Program, using sound and light frequencies channeled from Goddess Isis and a council of spirit teachers. Leontine is also writing a book about these healing practices. And thirdly, a pilgrimage beginning in June of 2026, currently to Chartres in Brittany, working with sacred power sites. Leontine is also a musician and channel with award-winning albums, Star Bear Medicine and Singing Green. We hope the stories Leontine shares today will resonate with you and perhaps spark something new on your own path. As with all our Shamans Directory offerings, may you feel inspired to bring more shamanic wisdom and healing into your life. Shaman to Shaman is brought to you by Shamans Directory, a dynamic online platform where earth and lineage-based shamans share their medicine, build a community, and help to change the world. Visit us at shamansdirectory.com on YouTube and Instagram. So now, I am truly honored to welcome Leontine Hartzell to introduce herself to our global community. Leontine, how would you like to begin?
Well, first I want to say that I've called in all my helping spirits to be here with us in this time together so that they can participate in sharing about the beautiful path of shamanism and how not only is it very ancient, but completely applicable and important in contemporary times. And the spirits that I channel from would love to begin with a small, short, healing song. And I sing in what I've always called spirit language. A popular phrase is light language, but it's talked about even in the Rig Veda, which is one of the most ancient Hindu texts, of the speech of the shining ones, the shining ones. So I invite people to just listen and just receive the healing vibrations of this song. I never know what I'm going to sing. I just tune in and connect and see what comes through. So this is for anyone listening, anyone watching, anyone listening. Hi, Imanaya oe ayayanadi akoe yamana oi achia imana oi atayanaya Hawaii, Minaya Hewe, Aya. So sending blessings to all of you for your peace, for your health, for your continuing expanding joy in your life.
Thank you so much, Leontine. What a beautiful way to begin our conversation. And I wonder if we could also track back to your origins, to your beginning, and when you first realized that the shamanic path was something you were drawn to and wished to follow.
And we're only talking about this life because we don't want to go into the real history, the long history.
That's up to you. We start where you wish.
We could spend hours talking about all the past lives.
All right, let's start with this incarnation then.
I have many very vivid, specific memories of many of my past lives, which is fun and interesting. And part of my sole purpose in this lifetime is to bring that wisdom forward and integrate it and weave it together with the wisdom that I'm receiving and have access to in this life. So I was born psychic, had no idea that I was psychic, saw spirits, talked to them, they talked to me. I didn't know I was psychic until I was 29 and had my first astrological chart done. And this woman, very famous psychic in San Francisco, says, well, you walk into a room and you know how everybody's feeling. And I said, you mean everybody can't do that? And she started laughing. She practically fell off the couch. She's like, no, everybody can't do that. And I studied yoga and meditation in high school and Taoism. I was really into Taoism. And in college, I majored in comparative religion, so studied shamanism, and I minored in anthropology. So studied indigenous cultures and shamanism from an academic perspective. But back then, I graduated from college in 79, 1979. Back then, you would have to abandon your life and go live in the jungle or something to study shamanism. And when I went to graduate school to attempt to see if being some ordained Christian minister would be the right thing, I ended up mostly working with in comparative religions. And I actually didn't get a degree from Graduate Theological Union, even though I was there for almost 3 years. I left because I realized mainstream, even the most liberal mainstream Christian denomination was still too limiting for me. And I was going to finish my counseling degree, and I saw a workshop by Sandra Ingerman in Boston on shamanic journeying. And I knew I wanted to have a spiritual kind of psychotherapy practice. So I went to this workshop and my life changed, really. After 1 hour in the first journey, I remember sitting there and thinking, for the first time in my life, everything makes sense. The visions, the spirits, everything that I had experienced up till then. And the short version is then I did a year or so of Foundation for Shamanic Studies workshops. I took the 3-year program with Michael Harner, and then he had a stroke after the first session or so, and then Sandra Ingerman took over and taught it. And when I would ask my spirit guides if I should take the 3-year program, I went into a journey that was a series of extremely intense, death-defying initiations. And I came out of the journey and I thought, well, that would certainly be interesting, wouldn't it? And I just dove in. And it just felt right. And I started teaching shamanic journeying very early on. I was actually at a birthday party for a friend, and a woman comes up to me and says, "Are you Leontine Hartzell?" I said, "Yes." She says, "I heard about this soul retrieval you did for so and so." And I went to this center and asked them if you could teach shamanic journeying. And the woman said yes. Here's her phone number. She's waiting for you to call. And I taught at that place for, I don't know, maybe 5 years or so. It was so, the spirits, when you step up and open up, the spirits bring you what you need and where you're supposed to go. So that's how it all began.
What a beautiful story. And I think many people can relate to this, Leontine, of having an inspiration or being drawn to a certain experience and that experience changing everything. I wonder if you could tell us a little bit more about your relationship with Sandra Ingerman and what in particular inspired you with soul retrieval itself. Like, what was your sense that this was really the core of the work that you wanted to pursue, at least initially?
So when I saw Sandy Ingerman's name listed at this spiritual center that used to be in Boston that had all kinds of great programs, so of course I looked her up. Back then, that was before the internet. So I went to the Andover, Massachusetts Public Library, which is, sort of upper class suburbia. And there was her book, Soul Retrieval, which was one of her first books. Back then, she only had like 2 books out. And so I read it and I just had this revelation and this strong urge of like, this is what I must learn to do. And I once in a while I go back to that library. I don't live there anymore and look at that book and I just hold it because I really think that that was placed there for me. I really do. You know, how unlikely that that book would be in that little public library. And that's how I got inspired. And then I took that first workshop with Sandra, and then I still work with her. I've taken all her programs that she teaches, and she's the most important mentor in my life.
Well, core to soul retrieval, of course, are these qualities or this ability to journey. And then when you journey, as I understand it, they're compassionate helping spirits you seek.
Yeah.
Could you speak a little bit to us about how does one learn to journey and how did you make the leap from learning the capability of journeying to contacting or connecting with personally helpful helping spirits?
Well, when I first learned to do shamanic journeying in that first 1-day workshop with Sandra Ingerman, so I started practicing a lot because to me, even though I had done a lot of meditation and I'd seen spirits, I didn't know how to really connect directly and clearly with them. They would sort of just show up, and or I'd talk to them, but I couldn't see them. And so with journeying, with listening to a drum beat, um, the way that that focuses the mind and helps the brain go into the theta waves, which are the most conducive to a visionary experience. I used to journey to a drum beat very regularly, multiple times a week, even with, a house full of little kids. Um, and I have a lot of funny stories about that. I used to tell my kids, if they had a babysitter, I'd say, you can only interrupt me if there's blood or fire. Like, other than that, like, don't interrupt me. And once my daughter, like, scratched her knee, and I didn't hear any screams, so, but she came in because that was the rule, blood or fire. But, over time, my ability to journey became clearer and clearer, and my ability to connect with my spirit guides, both power animals and spirit guides, became clear. And working with nature spirits also the same way. And being highly intuitive and psychic, things really opened up for me where um, as time went on, I didn't need the drumming to connect with my spirit guides. Although I don't really use drumming anymore. I mean, I've been doing this literally every day for like I guess 28 years. Um, Journeying, I mean. So, um, but for many, many years, I did use the drum beat for many, many years. And when working with clients, I would use either rattle or drum beat to help me focus, to help that my mind quiet and my psychic abilities really open up to connect with my guides. And in my healing practice, which was I was really blessed with a very robust and busy healing practice for many, many years. It continues on. Um, I purposely don't do full-time healing practice anymore because my focus is, I'm doing more teaching. But when I first started doing healing work, I would journey about what healing the person needed before they came. And then when they came, I would talk to them for a little bit. And then I would say, now I need to talk to my guides. And I'd pick up my rattles and I'd rattle and go into a journey. And my main diagnostic spirit guide would then tell me what this person needs, taught me how to look at their energy. Like I would see their energy with my eyes closed, and then my guide would say, now open your eyes. And I'd see their energy where the energy blocks were. I see it all as light. And what was needed, I was instructed as what was needed to do to bring this person to a state of health. And so I would do that. And my passion in healing work is soul retrieval because I've seen it change people's lives so beautifully for the better. It certainly changed my life for the better. To get your own energies back that you've lost is just, it's like a rebirth. It's absolutely marvelous. And so I love doing soul retrievals for people. I love teaching people how to do soul retrievals because, as many of your viewers know, it's such an ancient practice found in virtually almost every single indigenous culture in the world. That's common knowledge that when something traumatic happens to someone, often, not always, but often, part of their pure essence separates out to protect itself from the traumatic experience. And to have that pure essence brought back, it's not a traumatized part that needs healing, but it's pure essence. Have that brought back and restored to you where you need it in order to live your life to its fullest potential. And of course, in modern culture, most people live for years and years without their soul parts. So then there's the work to do of unraveling the habitual patterns of behavior that have developed because you didn't have part of your energy. I've had the great fortune, I think, to do soul retrievals sometimes on people who've just lost a soul part and they realize it and they come to me and then it just like clicks, the soul part clicks right back in place, and there aren't those patterns of behavior that develop as trying to cope without having part of your energy.
Could you tell us, Leontine, an example of a client experience of someone who came in with trauma and what the experience was working with you?
Well, first, I want to tell you this little short story about one of my soul losses because it was very interesting. Well, it was traumatic, but interesting. So I'm driving down a highway in the late fall, and there's an ice storm, and I lose control of the car. I'm yelling to my spirit guides to save my life. I miss another car. We're both out of control by literally 3 inches. And they shut down the highway, and I'm sitting on that highway for hours, and finally we're evacuated. And fortunately, I was going to a Native American ceremony, and a good friend, Julie Langroth, was going to be there. So I managed to get myself there, very shaky, and I knew I'd had soul loss. And I said to my friend Julie, I need a soul retrieval, like as soon as possible. So we went right into our tent, and she did a soul retrieval, and I felt my soul part, which she found up in a tree next to the highway, which is a smart place to go if you think you're going to die in a car crash. And I felt the soul part come in and settle in this beautiful, gentle, but firm way, like it like clicked into place. And I felt immediately different, better, whole. My whole body calmed down. It was pretty remarkable. And then to talk about clients, I'm remembering this one woman. I'm telling you what my guides are telling me to tell you. Um, she came in and she was young, had been married for a little while, and things were not going great. And she felt really belittled and bullied and disempowered in the relationship. And so we did soul retrieval. I always do soul retrieval in conjunction with other healing things that my guides instruct me to do to balance out the energy, clear any blocks, do extraction, whatever's needed. And so we do a soul retrieval. She feels better. I do a lot of balancing. She goes home. And then she comes back about 3 weeks later, and she sits down in my office and she says, I did it. I'm thinking, I don't know what she did. I said, what did you do? She says, I left him. And that was the right thing for her. I don't want to scare anybody that, if you have a soul retrieval, you're going to break your partnership with whoever you're in partnership with. But for her, it was the right thing. And that soul retrieval restored back to her the parts of her energy that she needed in order to move forward with her life. And she worked with me for several years, and she really created a whole new life for herself. New work, new place to live, new relationship. It was really wonderful to observe. I did have a friend who heard about a similar story and waited 2 years to come see me for healing because she said I was scared that my whole life would, change. And that's the minority of the time I see that people make huge dramatic changes in your life. Usually with soul retrieval and with shamanic healing, the changes are integrated into your life. But if big changes are needed, then that is what hopefully someone will get on board with and work with their own fears around that, and because we are all meant to be happy here. I know most people forget that. I forget it sometimes. But we incarnated to experience the joy of all kinds of love and the evolution of our own souls on this planet. And being a human being is complex and it's challenging. And all the compassionate helping spirits know that. That's why they want to help us. They know this is a tough gig, but you can't, from what my guides have taught me, you can't experience love and the own evolution of your own heart like you can as a human being on planet Earth. You can't experience it quite this way anywhere else in the universe. So this is a really precious opportunity. And it doesn't mean that you can't like put your feet up on the couch and watch Netflix. It doesn't mean that you can't just like dance around the kitchen for an hour and not care about anything else. It doesn't mean that you can't relax, but there's a purpose to being here. And in shamanic work, it's all about helping people align with that purpose, helping them heal whatever needs healing from the traumas and things that happened to them in this life and whatever they've carried over unfinished from past lives, which we all do, and live in live in this joyful harmony with the earth and all the creatures here. And for those of us who are called to the path, in joyful harmony with all the helping spirits.
I know, Leontine, that your primary focus now is in teaching,
Yeah,
and you focus on training healers who thrive. I think that's a very engaging thought. And I know you're available for individual sessions, but your primary work and where you're most drawn to at the moment is is in the teaching. Could you describe your programs and how someone who would like to continue a relationship with you engage in that way?
sure. So, right now I have two main programs that I'm working on getting out because I was on sabbatical last year. And then there'll be a couple other shorter programs. And then there's this pilgrimage to power places in northern France next June. So the program that I teach, that I've been teaching for 28 years, is my Shamanic Light Healer Apprenticeship. And it is a basic foundational course in intensive shamanic practices and shamanic healing. And it meets in Methuen, Massachusetts, north of Boston, for I think it's 5 weekends. And so that program, you learn to journey and develop really um, direct, clear, deep relationships with your helping spirits. So everybody has spirit guides and power animals, and sometimes other nature spirits, sometimes they're angelic spirits that come forward to be in close relationship with you to help you with your life, whatever it is that you are called to do or as you find your way. When I first started doing shamanic journeying, I had no idea that I would become a shamanic energy healer. Back then, like nobody did that. And you know, what year are we looking at? Early 90s. And and then to teach it, I love to teach, but I had no idea. I was just following what interested me. I mean, I was captivated. I wasn't just fascinated. I was captivated by what my spirit guides were showing me and what they were teaching me and how they would heal me. You know, if I had a cold, I'd go into a journey and I'd say, if it's okay, could I be healed from this? And come out of the journey totally fine. Pretty amazing. So I teach this apprenticeship course where I train people to do shamanic healing work on people as well as land, as well as animals. And the 8-month program culminates in the soul retrieval training, because I only teach soul retrieval to people who have really good, strong journeying skills, know how to do other kinds of shamanic healing, and can have very clear and direct relationship with their helping spirits. So
I
they'll
want
do a really good job doing soul retrieval. Yeah.
I want to note at this point that you've been termed an all-purpose shaman. And I love that description. I think that speaks to what you're talking about before someone is ready to do the soul retrieval work. So, um, what is it to be an all-purpose shaman? That's a very engaging term.
Well, that's sort of my like tongue-in-cheek way of describing myself. Because there's some shamanic practitioners that would specialize in certain things and really only do certain things, which is that's their calling. My path is I do some of everything. So I'll do depossession work, I'll do land clearing, I'll do extraction work, intrusions on people and places. I do a lot of soul retrieval. I do all kinds of healing work. I do ceremonies, which are all the reason I do shamanic ceremonies is because my spirit guides tell me to. And I used to lead a lot of sweat lodges. I don't do that anymore, but I follow what my guides tell me to do in everything. Um, I perform, I'm a legally ordained interfaith minister, so I perform legal weddings and I, do all kinds of life passage ceremonies as well. And I also do healing work. So it's some of everything, which I enjoy. Diversity is the spice of life, in my opinion. So,
Well, I love that, and I'm sure your students would be well served by working with you. Before we go on to your next program, you've mentioned ceremony and the value of ceremony. What's that about in common everyday practice? How might people apply ceremonial practices or engage this more in their lives? What's the origin of the value of ceremony?
well, there's big ceremony with a big group of people, and then there's your own individual ceremony. And to live life every day as a ceremony, to acknowledge the spirits of the elements, the nature spirits of where you live, whether it's in a city or anywhere else, to feel that you're in relationship with the helping spirits, with nature, and to honor that and honor those spirits and honor yourself. People can do simple ceremonies. I do simple ceremonies every day in the morning, usually. Um, but I do, I mean, a ceremony can be as simple as a prayer and an acknowledgement. But it's about being in right relationship. And that's where I mentioned about living in harmony. So, and living in balance. And part of my calling and people who are called to the shamanic path is how can we help humanity and all of life be in harmony with nature, with the elements, in order to rebalance the planet and rebalance not just the planet, but it actually impacts the whole universe. So um, ceremony shifts energy. And when our intention is focused on love, harmony, peace, well-being, then doing a ceremony that you would design for a particular situation, the intention's always about bringing peace and harmony. For example, my guides taught me a number of years ago these ceremonial dances with chants that they called the Wayana dances, which Honestly, I don't really know what that means, but that's what they said to call it. So it's like my practice is called the Eye of the Eagle Center because it was my eagle's idea. And I really argued about it for a long time because I thought it was a really funny name. I think it's a great name, but when your eagle power animal tells you that this is what you're going to call your practice, then that's what you do. So even I still discussed it with him for several weeks. But so these Wayana dances are simple circle dances with, and each one has like a different configuration of steps that people have to do. And there's always a particular chant in spirit language that goes with it. And the purpose of it is to each of these dances, they all have slightly different purposes and intentions, but it's to align the energies in the individual and to align to create energy as a circle of people that then brings healing, balancing, love, light energy out into the earth. Not unlike ancient and uh, ancient folk dances, which many of them, that is the exact same purpose and intention. And some of that intention has been lost, and a lot of folk dances have been lost, but not all of them, fortunately. But it's about literally weaving the light of creation into balance. And that's part of what we as humans are supposed to remember and are supposed to engage in as part of, like, it's healing, but it's also the gratitude exchange for this opportunity to be incarnate on the planet as a human, despite all the challenges. Yeah.
It seems, Leontine, that you have such a vibrant relationship with your spirit guides, helping spirits. Could you tell us a little bit about daily life in that way? Because we were just talking about ceremony. I know you engage your spirit guides in ceremony, and yet I get the strong sense that this is a continuous process throughout the day. Could you speak about your personal experience with spirit guides?
Um, well, I talk to my spirit guides every day, and more importantly, I listen. Maybe not always as wonderfully as they would like, but I do listen. And so not only do they guide like my planning and my teaching and my healing work, um, which is just amazing to me, and I feel incredibly blessed, but they also guide my personal life when I listen to them. When I not, when I'm not listening, things don't usually go so well. But I mean, I begin every day with meditation and prayer and connecting with my guides and asking them, what is the best thing for me to do today? And throughout the day, I'm also connecting with them and connecting with the spirits. I always spend part of the day out in nature. And so I'm always connecting with the elements and spirits of nature as well. Um, and so it's an ongoing way of living for me.
Do you
Yeah.
think it's appropriate for anyone in the shamanic field, or do you have a special affinity to this type of connection and work?
Oh, I think that people that find that they are drawn into the life of a shamanic practitioner, that this is how we live, because it as one of my teachers in Peru, Don Adolfo, said to me a long time ago, he said, we walk this path of light because it brings us joy. And that kind of sums it up, And I always tell people, again, a little tongue in cheek, like, it really is all about you. Like, if you do what makes you happy, that doesn't cause anyone any harm or any harm to the earth. If you do what makes you happy, that is the gift, the fruits of that is the gift that the world needs. That's following your soul purpose. That's being aligned with the truth of who you are and why you decided to incarnate again into this crazy circus of human life in order to experience your soul's evolution. So when we do what makes us feel full of joy, that brings our gifts to the world, and that's what the world needs in order for the world to be a place of joy and peace, even though I always say all evidence to the contrary, that really is what's going on. And it is what's really going on.
Well, how inspiring, Leontine, that you're truly through whatever means, whether they be your programs, your pilgrimages, or connections directly with you virtually, that you're teaching a path of joy. That feels like a significant contribution to the world and to the shamanic arena.
Well, and I didn't talk about this in what I sent you. Many years ago in 1993, my 4-year-old son Daniel died in an accident. And I have 3 other children. But when Daniel died, when I kind of recovered my some part of my sanity, I really felt like life is way too short to do anything that doesn't really feed my soul and my heart. I didn't know it was going to be the shamanic path, but I knew that I just needed to follow what interested me and what fascinated me. And, that's one of the most tremendous gifts of my son Daniel's life and death, is that um, it really helped me focus on what was important, what felt important, because what felt important to me is, of course, for every person, it's different and unique of what feels important to each person, and to follow that wholeheartedly and not listen to the naysayers, the people who say, oh, like you can't make a living at that. You know, when I was getting divorced with 3 kids and a mortgage, and I thought I was doing part-time shamanic teaching and healing work. I thought I should get a real job because I had kids going to college. So I got a job teaching school, which was, good, but it was a great job actually. And I was torn because how could I be a single mom and teach school all day and also keep up with the shamanic practice, which was growing. And one day I was doing a journey to my main spirit guide, and he takes me up to the top of this cliff and he says, jump. And I was so exhausted and stressed out. I said, look, I'm really not in the mood for that today. Can't you just like answer my question, please? Because I jumped off that cliff before and had these big dismemberments and everything. And, and so he's very insistent, my spirit guide. He's like, jump, jump, jump. So finally I'm like, okay. So I jump. And instead of falling and crashing on the rocks below and being split up into a million pieces in a dismemberment, I started flying. And he was flying right next to me. And he said, look back. And I looked back, and there were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of spirits flying in formation behind us. It always makes me cry when I tell this story. And I look over at my spirit guide, and he looks at me and he says, so you thought you had to do this all by yourself? And they have been with me every step of the way since I resigned from that teaching job at the end of the school year, and I've never looked back. For a while, I really thought my spirit guides were crazy and like, how could you make a living doing this? And I said to them at one point, I said, I'll give you a year. And then, like, it's not working out, I'm going to finish my graduate degree. Never, never did. I've been truly, truly blessed. And the healing work and the ceremonies and the teaching are all just bring me so much joy.
I so appreciate your personal sharing, Leontine. And in regards to the spirit guides, let's ask one more question there. Of this image that we have spirit guides behind us, do you feel that in your case is because you've worked so diligently to connect, or do we all have spirit guides with us, perhaps that we haven't met yet or don't know, and that it's a matter of establishing relationships that may already exist?
Yes, I think everybody has spirit guides. You know, in indigenous cultures, everyone by the time of adolescence is expected to have um, what one of my teachers called like a household shamanic practice, like some relationship with their spirit guides. And then some people are called to the path of shaman, healer, priestess, priest, you know, that person who um, walks in spirit world and in ordinary reality and brings forth the healings, the messages, the wisdom from the spirit realm into the physical earth earth realm. And so I think that everybody has the um, really it's the grace of being able to connect with their helping spirits. And I include all power animals and other spirits in that term, helping spirits. Yeah. And to me, it's a path of great adventure as well, because you, I I actually really like not knowing what's going to happen. And so because 95% of the time it's wonderful. So for example, I've worked with spirit guides who did healing work with me, who then reveal who they are. And one day, the goddess Isis appeared to me, which was, you know, just such an honor. And she told me to start writing things down. And she showed me this book, this gigantic book. It's really gigantic. And she's basically, she shows me what's in the book and I write that down and then I teach it. And that is the Ocean of Light healing program of working with sound and light and learning to work on the frequencies of sound and light for to do healing work. And it's amazing. I've been using these methods in my own healing practice for over a decade. And then about 5 years, 6 years ago, Isis told me to start teaching it. And um, when I journeyed with Sandra Ingerman many years ago in a group to the descendants, the people in the future, to ask about what kind of healing work they did, the answer always was to everyone, all healing is using light and sound. And so when I started teaching me these methods and I started doing them with my clients and seeing incredible results, I thought, oh, well, here we go. We're moving into that, into the knowledge and the wisdom and the practice of using sound and light in healing work. And the students that who've graduated from that program, and I'm starting a new program in February 2026, they report that these methods are more powerful than anything they've ever learned before, and they can integrate it with other shamanic and energy healing practices that they do. And I have found that to also be true. So I feel deeply honored to be bringing those teachings through. Yeah.
I would like to hear about your pilgrimage.
Oh,
What you
yeah.
have in mind for that, and what drew you to take that step to bring people with you to sacred sites.
Well, last winter, so winter 2024, um, I hear one day I was doing something else at my desk. I hear, go to Brittany. And I thought, so I said to my guides, well, I love France, not a problem. But why Brittany? Like it had never been on my radar. And they said, to see the stones. So being the researcher that I am, I look it up. Well, Brittany has the highest concentration of stone sites in Europe and second highest concentration of stone sites in the world. The other one being South Korea, which still is kind of, I know, a little mind-boggling, right? So I haven't been told to go to South Korea. But so I went to Brittany last summer, had incredible mystical experiences with the stones, the spirits of the stones, um, ancestral spirits showing up, teaching me things. It was quite the experience, and I'm going back actually in a couple weeks. And so I'm deep in the middle of planning to lead a trip in June 2026. So we'd be there for solstice to Chartres and Chartres Cathedral outside of Paris, and then go over to Brittany, visit quite a number of stone sites and also some churches that are built on ancient pre-Christian holy wells and sites, as is Chartres Cathedral, and then also Mont Saint Michel. So working with all these power places and vortexes in that area. And there will be other trips because I'm doing more research on those, but this Brittany trip is coming up. Yeah.
Well, you've given us some beautiful ways to be in relationship with you, Leontine. For someone wanting to put their toes in the water, is there a virtual way to connect, or do you suggest that people inquire about your programs or pilgrimage?
So we're already taking a waiting list of people interested in the pilgrimage. All the details aren't on the website yet. They should be up by the latest by the second week in September. And the apprenticeship program's up for registration on my website, eyeofeagle.org. And the Ocean of Light training will be up in a couple weeks to be able to register for that. But again, space is very limited because I keep that class small. So I'm also taking a wait list. It's not a commitment, it's just showing an interest. And there'll be a few other uh, events, like there's a sound healing ceremony, which I call the pulling down the stars because it's connecting with the healing energy of the stars. And that's at the end of October 24th, I think. It's the end of October. That's in person also. So there'll be more in person now because I taught on Zoom nonstop for so many years. I was doing a lot pre-pandemic and then, the pandemic. So there's more in person, but there'll be a few other online classes. Like there'll be a star connection class connecting with your star spirit guides, and that'll be in the late fall this year.
Well, in speaking with you, Leontine, I get a solid sense of how deep your work is and how creative your spirit guides are. And
They are.
and that you are a great vessel for to receive their guidance and to put the work into practice. You're one of the foundational members of Shamans Directory. You're the kind of person we want in the circle, sharing medicine and being a part of this global shamanic community. Could you speak just for a moment about your perspective of the value of Shamans Directory and your participation in this global shamanic work?
Well, I was really thrilled when I first found out about Shamans Directory, which I guess was last year. Um, for there to be an organization that's really vetting shamanic practitioners to make sure that they're doing work of the highest integrity and that their training is training of the highest integrity, I think is so important in this day and age where shamanism is a fad for a lot of people. And there's all kinds of shamanic teachers out there, or people saying they're teaching shamanism. And some are good, and some are mediocre, and some are not good. And so to have an organization that's really working very hard to create a community and a forum and platform that is comprised of people who are really walking the path, I think is so valuable in this day and age because we humans in this experience here on this planet, we really need guidance and to have teachers and practitioners and healers who can access compassionate, pure wisdom and bring that through is invaluable for our human experience as humanity evolves and needs to evolve. So I think it's a wonderful organization.
Thank you, Leontine. It's such a pleasure spending time with you, sitting in your presence, and I'm sure we all feel the same. Before we need to finish today, is there anything else you'd like to say or offer?
I just want to share that each and every one of you is really, truly loved, held, and supported by the universe and all the helping spirits, the angels, the archangels, the compassionate star beings. Even though you might not always feel that way, and sometimes I forget, you really are held in love. And to open to that love, and here's the big part, to trust in it and trust your intuition and trust what your heart shows you is the way to live a really fulfilling life. And so we all have that opportunity. So open to the grace of that so that you can live in this place of gracefulness, of receiving that love in all kinds of ways. It's why we incarnated again. It's why we signed up for this.
And finally, honoring your spirit guides, is there a practice, blessing, or prayer you'd like to offer?
Yes, I want to thank all the helping spirits in my amazing group of helping spirits who make my life possible and have actually literally saved my life a number of times. I want to thank them for this opportunity and for helping me in this lifetime. It's truly a journey of wonder. And I'm very grateful and grateful to you, Wake, also. Thank you so much for this very nice conversation, really exploring in depth some things that are so precious to my heart.
You're welcome, Leontine. Thank you so much for being here, for your presence, your passion, for the medicine you bring to the world. I love that you follow the path of joy and great adventure. Uh, I think that's a lesson for us all. To everyone watching, thank you for joining us for this Shaman to Shaman conversation. This is how we grow as a global community, by listening, by learning, by sharing. To learn more about Leontine Hartzell, visit shamansdirectory.com. You'll also find additional interviews, summit presentations, and replays of our live events on our YouTube channel. Leontine, thank you. Thank you for this opportunity and for the blessings of your presence.
Thank you, Wake. Thank you, everybody, for watching.
Until next time, this is Wake. We'll see you around the fire. Thank you for your part in this growing global shamanic community. Thank you.